Hello, guys. This is NHL Black 58, and welcome back to Black from the Blue Line. Along with my partner, Herbie's Revenge, we welcome you back to our channel. And this will be our second guest that we have ever had. And before I move forward, I'd like to thank our first guest, Jasmine Miley of the Hockey Players of Color movement. She was definitely a joy to have. This was our first interview, and we both were nervous and we had jitters all around, but I think we got through it. This next video, or next guest, I should say, is a pretty long one, so I'm not even going to go into an introduction. Most of you know his name, so I'm just going to go right to the interview. I know you're going to enjoy it. This interview was definitely one that was close to my heart. I really enjoyed this. And without further ado, Rico Phillips.
Well, Rico, we're so happy to have you here. You are kind of a hot interview right now. I don't know if you feel famous, having just had a new position, and it's the NHL awards are coming back this time around. So I'm sure that you're going to get some more airplay with your big accomplishment last year. Do you feel famous?
Locally, I do for sure. There's not many places I can go in Flint that they don't know me, but it kind of goes way back to when I first started. I was a firefighter for 27 years in the city of Flint, and one of my niches was fire safety. So not only did I teach fire safety, but I was also the public relations liaison for our firefighters union to the media and through the fire department and everything. So I got kind of popular doing that anyways, and that's probably what led to me having the opportunity to win the Willie O'Ree Award. It wasn't just the hockey community that came out in droves, but on a bigger scale, it's starting to sink in when I'm getting opportunities and phone calls and things like this. People reaching out to me. It's very, very. It's hard to explain, but it's a cool experience, but also kind of makes you go, "Wow, I've got a lot of people that are hoping that I do everything that I intend to do." So that gives us a little bit of pressure, but nothing I can't handle. I promise you that.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
Rico, this is NHL Black 58. I just want to start off the show by congratulating you on your new position with the OHL.
Thank you.
Which we'll discuss further down. Now, first question I have for you, what would you consider the biggest challenge facing hockey at all levels to ensure that this game is inclusive for all those who play it? And, what things that leagues like the NHL and OHL and so on can possibly do or try to make the game of hockey more accessible and inclusive for gaining minorities as new fans?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it boils down to one simple thing, and that's economics. The cost of ice hockey is by far the most expensive sport that anybody can play, no matter what color you are. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is use some of my thought process is that hockey has to figure out a way to subsidize the sport to make it so that it's much more accessible. By that I mean we get registration from the parents and for a kid to play hockey, but the kid can't afford it because it's such a high expense. Well, then obviously they're not going to play. But what I'm thinking is that state organizations and associations can go and subsidize by working with sponsorships to make it so the bottom line cost is less, and that may be to subsidize the rinks, because that's where the biggest cost is. So I think there's some ideas that are out there that can happen. It's going to take a lot of legwork because people will have to shift their way of thinking about how they want to use money and how money is to be spent in ice hockey. But to answer your question much more quickly, it's the finances and the cost of it that's the biggest barrier. And by that, it's twofold. I don't mean that like black people can't afford hockey, but when they're not familiar with the sport like ice hockey, particularly in the United States, and you put in you factor in the cost of it, most families, or a lot of families, should I say, their mindset is, why would I spend that much money for a sport I'm not even sure anything about? We don't know nothing about it, and it sounds like a whole lot. And that's what I get. When we try to put kids, help them continue in the sport, it's like, um, why would I try this sport when it costs so much? And so, when they can go try other traditional sports that's already kind of
Mm.
been built in to have it's much cheaper to play for a number of reasons. But
Yeah.
I think that's where we're going to have to do our hardest work.
So it brings up a wonderful question of how do you sell hockey to people? And especially how might you sell hockey to markets that it's no longer being marketed in, or maybe it's just starting to blossom and they're realizing that there's an opportunity there. What do you say about the uniqueness of the game, maybe if you've had to do it yet, to kind of
Well,
sell people and get them on board?
that's if I had the correct answer to that, I promise you, I tell you, the reason I say that is because here in Flint,
Yeah.
this was a my blue collar
Hmm.
hockey town back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s in particular, even in the
Okay.
early 2000s. And so, but the brand of hockey was semi-professional,
Hmm.
drink a beer and go get rowdy at the hockey game kind of game, right?
Okay.
And so eventually, because of the way finances went in this town, that level of hockey is left, as well as the hockey fan that used to watch that, because
Mm.
our industry's left. So
Okay.
there went the folks that were quote unquote true hockey fans, at the core hockey fans. So then what you have left is there's no hockey going on whatsoever within the city,
Mm.
and so there's no connection to the sport, to the kids that live in the city. Even we'll break it all the way down to what you call in the states is floor hockey.
Yeah.
We played floor hockey in in elementary school all the way up to middle school,
Hmm.
and because of the way that education has been cut so short, they don't even introduce floor hockey anymore. So what that means for us in Flint is that I have 30 slots of
Mm.
absolutely free hockey, absolutely free, and that includes transportation.
Yeah.
And I struggle to get 20 kids.
Damn.
And you would think that I'd have kids, so I have to turn away kids. And people in hockey go, "What? Free hockey? Really free? Absolutely free. Doesn't cost them a dime except their
Hmm.
time."
Hmm.
And so that's why I say I can't really answer the question. I'm working on that. I think I'm going back to basics, and I think floor hockey or street hockey, or what Canadians call ball hockey,
Mm.
is probably the most basic way to introduce the sport and hopefully create fans out of it, and maybe take those kids that are truly interested and take them from there and put them on the ice.
Nice. Yeah, it did seem like you had some degree of success with the Flint program, where you were taking the kids who were between 8 and 11 and just giving them a try. And
Hmm.
I'm wondering, what once you actually got them there, what was the follow up like? Did a lot of them go on to like develop a lifelong passion for the game and play?
Well, and there's one thing to note about the kids that came to us. Unlike what's typical in a try hockey for free or a learn to skate program, particularly learn to play, which is what our program is technically a learn to play program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the kids that come there were recruited heavily, and so they have virtually no idea what ice hockey really is. So I'm taking raw from the scratch
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for these kids to learn the sport, which is it's really unique,
Yeah.
because most learn to play programs, the kids have an inkling about the sport. That's why they say, "Mom, I want to go,"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. There's something that draws them there. Maybe their family plays a sport or something along
Mhm.
those lines. They love watching the game, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, so over the last 6 seasons of our program, consecutive years, we have 14 kids who have gone on to play.
Mm-hmm.
So what I note is that throughout each of the program sessions that we have is I actually work diligent to figure out if the kid, first of all, is showing great interest. In other words, each week that kid is progressing and trying harder, wants to be a part of every drill, doesn't shy away.
Right.
Even when it's tough, they want to be a part of it. Then I noticed how their family is. Do they make sure the kid's there every week?
Mm-hmm.
Are they interested in what the kid's doing, or are they just watching on their phone the whole time the kid's out there? I mean, I don't take it down to that simple of terms, but what I'm saying is that I try to make sure that this parent has the support for
Yeah.
the kid, so that when they go on and we actually introduce the kid to the sport, that I know that there's a good chance that the kid is going to stay in the sport. Because the last thing I want to do is push kids too fast
Mm-hmm.
and push them into it, and then they feel like they fail, or they drop out, and
Mm-hmm.
then what was all that for? So what happens in that process is I typically find between 4 to 6, possibly 8 kids that have gone through our program that are in that category I told you about, and then I get them scholarships to go to an additional learn to play program that's actually away from our program.
Okay.
So, so that would be like our program starts in January, goes to March, and so then what I do is I get them hooked up with a spring learn to play program, and the purpose behind that is so that they basically step away from us in our nurturing little area. And even though it's not going to cost them more, because I'm going to let them use the equipment for the spring,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to get them paid for it. But now they're getting a real, will they flourish without our system, our program?
Mm.
At the end of that, these players or these participants now should have enough skills to actually play. Because when they leave us after 9 weeks, I'll be honest with you, they play one game, but
Mm-hmm.
they really aren't playing the game. They're slapping, they're slapping sticks around. It's crazy fun, but they're not really technically
Yeah.
don't have the skills to get on the ice and have confidence. And that's what I say. I don't like pushing kids too fast, because if
Right.
they're not ready, they don't have confidence, and then the next thing you know, they quit. But
Yeah.
so then at the end of that, I have arranged through a local foundation to get each and every one of these kids their first year's ice bill paid for.
Nice.
So and then I'll tell you, I've looked at other programs across United States. I haven't looked at all of them, but I have seen others, and some of them are quite big and have a lot to be proud of. They've grown a lot of hockey, even more than I have. But what I like about our program, in comparison, like a majority of them have some type of either intramural or teamship. So in other words, they're trying to develop a team out of them, and which is fine. But here's the way I look at it. I've been a referee for, this would be my 35th season coming at us. And over the course of my experience, twice I would say I had two teams that come up from, when I say come up, I live 70 miles north of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
They come up to play, and they're from one of the teams that is considered a police athletics league team. So all the kids, a majority of kids were black kids. And the one thing I noted was the reception that they got. Now, this has been many years ago, so this hasn't been recently, but many years ago was like, that's the black team, or that's the black hockey players.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found that's very important about what we do with our program is we infiltrate teams, so to speak. So I'm taking kids from the inner city that have learned our sport. They have the skill to be a part of the team,
Mm-hmm.
and then they become part of the team. They're from the inner city, the intermingling with kids from the suburbs, and for the first time, on most occasions, they're learning something about different people, different cultures, both ways. So we know that we're feeding the overall picture of inclusiveness, not just trying to, um, you know, what's the word I want to say? I want to say let's pump out as many black hockey players that we can, and then
Yeah.
really, what's the purpose if
Right.
if it's not really going to go somewhere and create this love that you and I talked about, the love for the sport,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm finding. The kids that go on from our program love the sport. I'm not
Right.
pushing kids to love the
Right.
sport; they love it.
Yeah. So along the way, it seems like you teach them more enduring things that maybe don't have much to do with sports itself. You teach them life lessons. You teach them character building. Uh,
Yes,
you put an
yes.
emphasis on, yeah, like doing something positive with your time and probably building resilience. Can you speak a little bit more to like the life lessons that you do teach through hockey?
Yeah, absolutely, because that is a really key component to our program that we aren't just teaching hockey, and I knew that very early on.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think most of us that have ever played the game understand that the biggest hurdle to climb or jump, whatever, however you want to say it, is learning how to ice skate.
Mm.
And so when you think of how difficult it is compared to any other sport where you can learn the technical parts of the sport, but for the most part you can run up and down or catch something. And so I'm not saying that every single person can play every sport, but what I'm saying is the ability and the skill level is different in ice hockey. So what we're doing is we're taking kids and we're taking them and saying, hey, try this thing that you could in your mind potentially cause you to be hurt or to look silly. And those
Hmm.
two things cause a problem for kids. They don't want to look silly in front of other kids, especially kids they
Right.
don't know, and they don't want to fall and get hurt. And so what we do first is build confidence in them, and by talking about the equipment and how it protects all of us. And then the once we get them onto the ice for the very first time, I gathered them all. Usually I just let them go for quite a while. They're just out there just stumbling around, and we have lots of help for them, helping them try to get their way around. And then I gathered them all at the center ice. And I explained to them, welcome to the program, and talk about this is your first lesson. And the first question I ask of all the volunteers is, has any of you ever fallen once while trying to ice skate? Naturally, their hands go up. Have any of you ever fallen 10 times? And then obviously the whole thing is I said, have any of you ever fallen so many times you can't count? And all the same hands go up. So then I explained to them that part of learning how to ice skate and actually playing hockey is falling. And I make a quick joke about myself because I've been known to fall over my lifetime. But anyways, um, and then I get everybody to stand up on their feet.
Yeah.
And the first thing we do is on the count of my whistle, I want everybody to fall. And we fall. And I say, look around down here. Everybody see my eyes? Okay. And I show them how to technically get up on their skates so they can actually get up, not just get up now. Then they get up. And I say, fall. And we do it 3 times. And then I stop and explain to them what they just learned about life, that you're going to fall sometimes, but you got to get up. And I said, the thing about falling on these ice skates is it's hard to get up, isn't it? And they're all, yeah. And that's the way it is sometimes in life. It's harder than other times to get up. But you know what? Look up here. Look around us. What do you see? And then we start talking about the things to see. All right, now we fall. And then I say, what do you see down here? And we can only see each other in the ice surface itself. You know
Mm.
what I mean? You don't see anything when you're down there. You got to stand up so you can see the world around you. And so the parents flip out after the first lesson because they know that their kid is learning something more than what they thought they were.
Yeah.
And what's really cool about it, you guys, is the environment that's created. So I think what's important to touch on in this conversation is the volunteers themselves.
Hmm.
So when we talk about life lessons, this is how they tie in. So I'm trying to figure out how to get 12 volunteers to show up to our program each week.
Hmm.
And I'm refereeing a game. Actually, I was lining a game, and I know I'm supposed to be paying attention, but my mind wandered. Like, how am I going to get 12 people to be a part of this program each week? And I was doing a high school game, and I looked up and I said, there they are right there. And what I do is instead of calling 12 people each week, I call 12 coaches in a season, and
Hmm.
each team comes and adopts our program for the week. So this week it'll be this high school come in, and then basically because they know hockey, our instructors say this is what we're going to do in each of these station drills. You guys help manage it, and it creates team building for them on a whole different level. But it also, you guys, it cuts down this racial barrier that I didn't even recognize was going to be something that was going to,
Okay.
what I mean by that is the kids that are coming from the high school teams play in the suburbs and rural
Right.
sections of our community. They're not from the city. They've never even really, they're scared of the city other than
Yeah.
this opportunity to come work in there, to be
Yeah. They
honest with
never
you.
have had to go to where to Flint at all, and
Yeah, right. Their view of Flint is anything they see on TV that's bad. Any news that they see on TV that's bad. So now they play in the arena and they come see the Firebirds there, but to work hands on with
Mhm.
with young people, first of all, imagine for a kid that comes from a rural area in a community and comes into Flint, and he's got to help a little girl put her helmet on. She has braids all the way down to her tail, man. It's
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable how they like, you could see him like uneasy at first, and then once they get onto the ice surface, everything completely changes.
Ah,
And I've had so many compliments from not just the players, not just the coaches, but more importantly, those high school players' parents, how much they appreciate the opportunity for their kid to do that. So it's
awesome.
been a good run, and I'm hoping to do some more with it. We got more work to do.
Amazing. Rico, you're speaking straight to my heart. I'm a social
Yes.
worker. I have some involvement with a mentorship group back in my hometown to Dayton, Ohio. And we kind of aim to do the same things, get kids out of what's familiar to them and see what we can teach them about life just by broadening their horizons. I do want to get a little bit into what you're doing now with the OHL. It's really exciting stuff. I was curious as to what you know about the history of the OHL and cultural diversity and inclusion, meaning are you the first person to sit in this position? Was it created for you in a way?
Yes, I am actually the first person to sit in this position, and yes, the position was created for me. What basically happened is on a personal level. Back at the end of last summer, the OHL had contacted me because they were impressed with my program. I'd won the award, and so they were trying to do, or they did this conference called Vision 2020. And what they're trying to do is go through all these different levels of getting the teams involved, whether it be in their community or different ways of looking at how they're going to move forward with the OHL, where they're at and where they want to move forward as a group. And so I was asked to be there, and I gave this PowerPoint presentation and knocked them out of the park because I was basically talking about our program, but how the OHL should reach out to the non-traditional fan base, because
Okay.
in order to make the sport more inclusive,
Mm-hmm.
and it isn't just about being inclusive. I said, to me, it's most important that in a place like Flint, that the fan base reflects the community. These OHL teams are community-based hockey teams.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I look in the stands, and I'm in Sudbury, Ontario, I should see a section of Indigenous tribe people that come to the games. You know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be just for the traditional fan, I guess. And
Mm-hmm.
so this started to create a buzz and an interest, and so some time went on, and I was kind of on a roll doing some things across the USA Hockey and NHL scan of things. I mean, I went to Ottawa they were celebrating the award, and I went to Minnesota to speak about diversity and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And then the COVID-19 hit and just stopped everything. And I was like, I was on a roll. What happened? Oh no. Because I was really trying to figure out where I was going to go next. I had retired, and I knew that I retired because I didn't have to. I was no longer had to be firefighter Phillips, which is the only person I ever was prior to that. When I grew up, I wanted to be a firefighter. So
Mm-hmm.
this was to me an opportunity to really spread my wings with ice hockey. So, anyways, the George Floyd was needlessly murdered,
Mm-hmm.
and I, like so many people, were trying to figure out how to get my voice heard. And I know here in Flint, I was trying to decide whether I want to become a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I will tell you the truth. When the Black Lives Matter movement first started, I was confused by it a little bit because I wanted to make sure that all people were understanding and coming to the charge. Like, I feel like black people can't end racism alone. It takes white people to end racism, right? I mean, when we're talking about black and white racism, I'm just being straight up about those two races alone. But
Yeah.
so I'm trying to figure out, where does Rico have to say, and how am I going to say it? And because I just felt strong convictions. And if anybody's on social media, you've seen the divide happening and people coming out of the woodwork saying really ignorant shit, man. And I was kind of like, what can I say?
Yeah.
And here's the honest truth. I contacted Willie O'Ree, and yeah, I'm not kidding you. And I'm so fortunate I can call Willie O'Ree up,
Right.
And I said, Willie, man, how you doing? I want to see how he's doing, with the COVID thing, anyways. And I said, man, I'm struggling. I don't know what to say and how to say it. And he said, Rico, whatever you say, hockey, your voice is in hockey, and people listen, so you better let your voice be heard. It's something
Okay.
along those lines, man. And I was like, what? And it
Yeah.
hit me like a ton of bricks. I need to step up my game.
Yeah.
And so I'll be truthful with you, man. I emailed David Branch, the OHL commissioner. And I said, I don't know if you have a person that does this work, but
Wow.
I'd love to be able to help this person. I have some great ideas that I think can help influence the way people think about race in hockey in particular, and all these things I put in the email. And I got an email back, and we talk, and we got a phone call, and he said, this is so ironic. We're trying to figure out how we can progress and keep moving OHL forward. And this is one of the areas that we didn't know where to turn. And then I get this email from you.
Wow.
And I was like, so it was fate. It's totally fate, and my passion towards the
Yeah.
sport, and my voice wanting to be heard about racial equality and stuff like that, that laid me this spot. So one thing I want you guys to understand, anybody that's listening, I'm
Yeah.
51 years old. I had a 27-year career with the City of Flint Fire Department.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to do is be a firefighter, but at my age, I reinvented myself,
Yes.
and I have an opportunity to really continue to make a deep mark and a pathway that others I hope to inspire. So as you guys are doing the work you're doing, you're going to inspire folks by just opening up these discussions and making a platform for people like me to be heard and to listen and to learn from younger people that what's really going on, what's the vibe out there, and how can we truly, like, listen, guys, if we in the sport of ice hockey can do this change and make this sport much more inclusive than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and
Hmm.
really push forward, what what's to say that we can't be the benchmark or the example for society?
Yeah.
Hey.
That's where
Amen.
I'm coming from. That's where I'm coming
Uh,
from. Why I'm trying to inspire. I'm not going to be here forever, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take 10, 15, 20 years to do that. But
Mm.
I'm serious, guys. We have a chance, just by what you're doing, exposing more people like myself to, us exposing each other to each other. You know what I'm trying to say. And
yeah.
I am a hockey player and a firefighter. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed all the time. But anyways, man, I'm so thankful for the opportunity to speak to you guys about this stuff.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now, I just want to throw this question. You actually answered one of my questions about the indigenous people, but in your new role in the OHL as Director of Cultural Diversity and Inclusion, what recommendations do you think are needed to build upon the league's current policies and players and staff training?
Well, to be honest with you, that's a difficult question to answer at this point because I am just scratching the surface.
Right.
Right.
I'm doing this in three phases, and I'm not keeping it a secret how we're doing this. The
Okay.
first phase is fact finding, and so what we're going to do is we're going to sit down with some players of color that have recently played in the OHL
Okay.
and talk about their experience and try to get a gauge on what level of overt racism is there. How do they feel about their overall experience? Were all their needs met culturally? Those types of things. And
Hmm.
then from there, we're hoping to garner their support to potentially put together a committee.
Hmm.
And the whole idea is to educate, not to necessarily say we're going to change policy, because that's up to
Okay.
the leaders, of course, and I'm going to help
Yep.
influence those changes. But
Yep.
I'm more of a consultant than I am a full-time go to the OHL offices every day. So
Okay.
from that point on, what our next goal would be to educate from everyone to the player all the way up to the top of the food chain in the OHL. And that could mean some difficult conversations when we talk about inclusion, because
Yep.
what I am noting is that there is some level of diversity in the Ontario Hockey League
Yeah.
to be noted. So, but what I see from a personal standpoint, without, again, I'm scratching the surface and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but
Yeah.
I see that it stops at the players. And so that's where the tough conversations potentially are going to happen, is once we get beyond the players, how do
Uh-huh.
we make those changes in the front offices and other areas? And I think it boils down to recruiting So other, so that there's other opportunities available. It doesn't mean we have to exclusively start or to. I'm going to suggest. Well, I think we're going to have to fire some of these people and put black people in their places because that's not going to go over well, and that wouldn't be worthwhile anyway. Nobody would want to do that either way it goes. Nobody would even want to be hired that way. So
Yeah.
that would be fruitless. But the point would be to see how we can together look for the future, and this could again take 10 to 15 years to
Yeah.
see that type of inclusion. And the final phase, which is nearest and dearest to me, is we're going to hopefully help each franchise that wants the help, because some of these franchises do a lot in their community and they don't necessarily need any real new stuff to do. But to find the quote unquote Rico Phillips or like minded people in
Mm.
different OHL communities that we can help them develop programs like the one in Flint with the key components. Not necessarily has to mirror Flint, but that's a blueprint of one way that works. And the idea would be to reach the minority, the under-indexed is probably the better way to term it, because we're talking about indigenous people. We're talking about in some communities, and that's what you guys got to understand. I don't know how much you know about Canadian communities that some of these are in, but there are no black people living in the community. There are no indigenous people living. There's white people living there. And so how am I going to say you need more black people in the stands when that's just not going to happen? But we all know that socioeconomically, there's people in every community that are being under indexed that should be able to appreciate the sport in some fashion. So
Absolutely.
we got a lot of work ahead, but
Yeah.
it's going to be good.
We really do.
I'll
And
touch-
something that you're really highlighting is how important it is just to have a seat at the table.
Yes.
In the room when the decisions are made, to have a voice, because what you're talking about when we talk about change hockey culture, sometimes it's change the bubble mindset, change the insularity, and just the having no need to ever go outside of what your thought process is and how you see a situation.
Right.
And really seems like you're going to be able to break that mold, I really hope. And the more you plug away with this committee, I really hope that you guys can come together and build something beautiful. Go ahead, Trace.
Oh, I just wanted to kind of touch upon that. I know we're kind of running short on time. The Flint Firebirds Hockey Club, or the OHL, they've been routinely involved with your youth program. Do you still see the Firebirds continue to act as role models in mentoring your youth hockey players? Or is there a way maybe you could kind of take what the Firebirds have meant to your community and kind of instill that into other teams in the OHL? Obviously, the minority issue, but as far as like indigenous people, maybe having some of the hockey players from certain teams in that area just kind of take on and be a mentor.
Yeah, so that's been one of the highlights of the program. Now, keep in mind the OHL player schedule is they really restrict them. It's very tight.
Okay.
So seldom do I get OHL players that can participate in the on ice program for the full time that we're there. But what we do is we time our ice time falls just after the Firebirds morning skate ice time. And so what this does is provides this opportunity for the players to greet the kids and help them onto the ice, and then create these bonds. Because I always ask the players once we kind of all get out there to introduce themselves and tell us what their number is, and then all of the players, our participants have tickets to each home game, and so we encourage them to go to the games so that they can kind of see what hockey is supposed to look like and get this buzz about them. Like, so they're fired up the next week when they go. They want to skate just like number 7 did or whoever.
Right on.
And then potentially they'll see them in person again and develop bonds. And then I also, what we've been able to do with the Firebirds is I've requested them to go to recruiting sessions with me at neighborhood centers that I've gone to, and where we play floor hockey or ball hockey, however you want to describe it.
Right.
And what I do there is I introduce them as the Flint Firebirds, which some of them may know or may not know, depending on their access and what they've heard, in their homes or whatever, or maybe even been to games for that matter. But basically what I do is I let the OHL players turn into coaches, and it gives these guys a chance to be leaders of their own and come of their own, and because, they're 16 to 20, 21-year-old kids. I mean, kids, I call them kids, young men, and they're just learning how to be professionals. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and what that means, what I try to express to them is that this is the place where you become not just a great hockey player, but a great person. And so that when you're advancing your career as a professional, you find a way to give back because you'll know how much it means when you see these faces on these kids. And so, absolutely, my goal is to somehow connect each franchise to some level of their youth hockey or something. Again, I have to go to each community, which is going to be fun, learning a bit about Canadian communities and Canadian life. you know,
Mhm.
it's funny they got an American to do it. They'd probably taken some shots for that, but with the same token, though, I've lived. My community is completely diverse, and I've lived both sides of being multicultural. Not being black enough for black people, not being white enough for white people. Growing up in the 70s and 80s wasn't easy. But what it did is it helped me define myself as being Rico and not either of those colors, but understanding. Like I have culture in my family, guys, that my grandfather's is son of a slave, and on my father's side, and this will probably surprise people, but my mother is German and her father was a Nazi soldier. So how do those two come together and make a Rico? You know what I mean? They're probably
Yeah.
both well, what the hell? And they see each other in heaven or wherever they're at. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying. So my point is, and by saying all that, is that my goal is to open up that dialogue and be able
Yep.
to relate to everybody.
Hey, it's where we need to start. I don't know if we're going to have more than a minute left here because Zoom lets you do 40-minute calls, but sometimes
Okay.
it'll extend the time. So at 9:40, it's a possibility we'll get cut off,
Yep.
but it also could be possible that we can keep going. So I'm going to keep going until they
All
stop us.
right.
All right.
All right. Cool. Cool. I got you.
Yeah. So you were talking about mentors to kind of carry out the legacy uh, that or the blueprint that you sort of built in Flint. And I wanted to talk about one person in particular that you're probably familiar with, Jalen Samaric. In
Yep.
doing some basic prep for the interview, I found that he's probably a great example, and I just wanted to give him a shout out, give him some recognition for the work he's doing, and you could
Sure.
probably speak to the work that he's doing to kind of
Yes.
follow in similar footsteps as you, if you could.
Yeah, for sure. Jalen and I. It was interesting because the president of the Firebirds at the time had, when I seen the headlines that Jalen was coming here, and I looked him up and I said, "What? This brother's coming to Flint?" So my first response was, "Man, I hope I get a chance to meet him." Well,
Mm-hmm.
next thing I know, the president of the OHL is texting me, "Hey, I'd like you to come meet Samaric today." And I was like, "Okay." So I showed up. I was in uniform. I don't know if you've seen a picture. His first picture in Flint was we had the Firebirds backdrop. He's got the owner of the Firebirds on one side of him, and me on the other side. And I'm sure anybody has seen that picture is like, oh, why is there a fireman and the Donald Trump looking guy with Jalen? Because it didn't really make sense why I was in the picture, but it was the day that we created the bond and the relationship. And so what I would do with him is I would ask him to come along with me, and we would go to schools and promote the program, and then he would take time out of his morning skate and spend extra time with us, and he got to know a few of the players. Like if they were around after a game, he'd meet them and take pictures with them and talk with them. But what it did is it helped set him up for his future opportunities, like when he went to Tucson and where's the BC? The other team he played for. I'm trying to remember. Rapid City. Sorry, Rapid City,
Oh,
where I could see by following him that he was connecting with players and fans, particularly fans of color,
Mm-hmm.
and that was what I thought was most important. And then reading an article that just came out that he was a part of, he told me that or he mentioned me in the article about how that meant a lot to him. But I can tell you this: he's got a soul that's deeper than one could imagine. What people don't realize, or maybe you do, but he feeds the homeless with bologna sandwiches. He hand makes sandwiches for the homeless and brings them to these places and makes sure that people actually eat, and
Nice.
not just.
nice.
And I'm telling you, man, this guy does it on his own dime. He isn't part of a foundation. I think they're trying to get something together so they can do more, but that's him. That's who he is, and he does that in Detroit. He doesn't do it in Rapid City or whatever. He does it in his his community, and so I'm really proud of him. He's actually going to help us with this OHL committee. So those are the kind of intangibles that we hope that players like him are able to really shine and show an example of giving back to their communities.
Awesome. I mean, you're building a coalition of across generations, across different levels of the game. It's really beautiful to see. It's insanely inspiring. I think I love what you said when there's no real magic answers for this. Like, how do you end racism in any environment? How do you challenge elitism in any environment? But hey, you show up, you find the like-minded people, you look who's doing the real work, and you roll up your sleeves with them, and you see what can get done. And I love that spirit. I think it's something we can all take a lot from.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm going to tell you, my experience has shown me that there's more than enough. There's a whole lot of programs like ours that are helping introduce this sport to minorities.
Yeah.
And, they do it day in and day out without all the accolades and that I was fortunate enough to get. And that's why what my plan was once I won the award was to speak on their behalf of what community service and involvement looks like in the hockey world. I would go. In fact, the trophy has not been on my mantle yet, you guys. I've particularly during the season last year, I was taking it with me, and I would speak to high school students after their games all over the state. I was speaking to students that were coming from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where clearly there are no people of color playing hockey up there, and talking about diversity and talking about don't racialize and marginalize people based on what you think Understand these are people. I'm a person. Right now I'm showing you I'm a person. I'm a person that cares about other people. That's why I'm here talking to you. You got that kind of thing. And using the trophy as the centerpiece, because think about me coming there in stripes going, hey kids, I want to talk to you about this stuff. They'd be like, man, what do we do wrong? They shut down on you. But because I had this trophy in my hand that came from the National Hockey League, and they're sitting there in their hockey gear, and I let all of them hold it. They pass it around while I'm talking. It was a level of inspiration that I was able to provide that I know is virtually priceless. And so I speak on behalf of all those programs that are out there that, there's some good stuff going on out here.
Yeah. And the words inscribed on that trophy are teamwork, perseverance, and courage. Now, knowing that you're well known in your community and you're admired for your service and work with the fire department, teaching fire safety, community events, of course, teaching inner city youth hockey. How much pride do you feel knowing and telling the world that, yes, I am from Flint, Michigan, knowing that in the past, Flint has had this negative kind of stigma on them? How much pride has that installed in you?
Well, that's a great question, and it has instilled a lot of pride in me. But I'm going to say this, the thing about it is that I've always been prideful of being from Flint, even when the times were tough. And that's what was kind of unique about my position with the fire department, especially towards the younger part of my career, is that I always stood up for what was right, whether it be in the fire service or in our city. And so, but I got to be the first to tell you, when we went through water crisis, I was standing there in the middle of ground zero, I call it, at our fire station where we were distributing water. And the National Guard was in there distributing water. And I was standing there. I had to stop and look around, and I thought to myself, of all the disasters I thought that I might be in the fire department, water crisis is not nowhere near the chart. And this was crazy. It's probably, you've seen images, but to be there, to see people so desperate for bottled water it was unimaginable, really. And to know that we had to persevere without all the fanfare, because once the cameras went away, we still had the problem. We still have the problem, to be honest with you, to some extent. But when I was able to win the award, and I knew when I stood up there, and if you watch my remarks, I said I want to thank my supporters in my hometown of Flint, Michigan. I paused on purpose because I knew that the folks that live here had something to be proud of that had nothing to do with We got lower crime rates, we got lower arson rates. Our water's better now. Just about as good people here. And so I was fortunate afterwards. There was a watch party here in Flint for the awards,
Oh, yeah.
and I got to see raw video of people when I said that. When I said that, and my family and friends and supporters in my hometown of Flint, Michigan, they went nuts. You guys, oh, it gets chills down my spine. I started crying just because I knew when I was in Vegas and I said it, I knew it was electricity. I could feel it. Like I knew everybody was going, yes, because Flint needs something to be proud of, man. And so you think for 1 minute I'm not prideful. When I announced I got this role, when I announced I retired, there was so many people out porch that thank you for your service, of course, who remembered what I'd done. But then when I took this new role on, it was like winning the award all over again. I had so many people support me and saying you're the right guy for the job, and they're happy for me. So, like I said in a local interview, is that I'm from Flint. I'm a product from Flint. Um, I wouldn't be me without Flint, and I'm serious about that. The diversity that I have in my mindset is because of where I'm from. So
Yes.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah,
love
I
it.
can tell from listening to you speak, Rico, that you're very intensely attuned to trauma and being able to feel that alongside people and with people. And I think that having that in the OHL is going to be incredibly valuable, because one of the most common things I hear when people are called slurs on the ice is that no one cared. Maybe my
right,
team, took umbrage with it, and so did my coach. But when it came to the league, the management, the ref didn't write the paperwork. The ref didn't show up for
right,
the hearing, even when I made the hearing. It's like you get the sense that nobody cares. And maybe having a Rico there, that I know him personally. He talks to me.
right,
He cares. He gives a shit. He can relate. I think that's
right.
so valuable, and we're blessed to have you there.
Thank you, my friend, because I'm gonna tell you right now. I was fortunate enough. It's funny you say that. For the Michigan Amateur Hockey Association, they have what's called a Safe Sport Advisory Committee, and I was asked to serve on it. And basically, what it does is it looks at when these calls are made for racial slurs and epithets. Because the NHL kind of pushed the USA Hockey to enforce this rule now, and so I think what more than me trying to say, yep, you said a racial slur, you're done. It's going to be this opportunity for me to help folks grow, young people understand and open up dialogue. And the same thing with the OHL. Um, it's going to be it's going to be unique for a lot of people to talk to me. Geez, this guy is for real. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
can't explain it, guys. I really can't. It's just I feel very blessed and fortunate to have the mindset I have, and I'm going to help make this sport a better place and this world a better place if I can while I'm here anyway.
It's a beautiful testament, Rico. We are kind of getting towards the end of our time. Tracy, do you have anything else you wanted to ask while we still?
No, I just really appreciate you speaking with us. Like I said, I was so inspired by your speech at the NHL Awards, and I'm just
Thanks.
wow. I'm definitely proud to have interviewed you. So we appreciate
Thank
it.
you
Thank
so
you
much.
for taking the time to speak
All
to
right.
us.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm not gonna wear out too much time, but because you
That's fine.
guys are hockey fans too,
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna try to take you through the awards show real briefly, okay? As
Yeah,
briefly
go
as I
ahead.
can, what I
Go
was
ahead.
going through.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Because I want you to imagine. I'm a decent storyteller, so I want you to imagine. We get picked up in a car here in Flint and taken to the airport in Detroit, all on the dime of the NHL. A nice limo car, right?
Mhm.
And so we're flying into Vegas, and we get to Vegas, and I don't know if you've ever had a limousine driver with you holding a sign with your name on it, but I never have. I've been a limo driver holding a sign with someone's name on it before,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, yeah, I'm Rico Phillips, and they're like, here, come on, let's go. And then they put us up in one of the swankiest hotels in Vegas, and there's only a couple of them. This place was top notch,
Okay.
and of course the players and all the higher ups are staying in the same hotel. And I'm just trying to be cool, right? I'm just like, no way are we here. So the next day, after we got there, we had to go to the Mandalay Bay for a dress rehearsal, just the three finalists. So they give us a ride over there. We show up, and we got to go through all the security measures. And then we get there, and they are like, and we walk into the to where the show was going to be. It's like, oh my God, we're here! Oh, you know, because you just see the big puck in the ceiling. It was like, we're really here. And they rushed us through. Like, okay, you're going to be sitting out here. We'll find your seat tonight. And you can see these pictures of these big boards of people. Like, that's where they're going to be sitting. Messier is going to be there. That's for the cameras, you know, so they know where the important people are sitting. And so they're like, okay, if you win, you're going to go up this staircase. You're going to meet the greeter, the people, the presenters, and then you're going to walk over here, mic check, and then we all mic checked. And your remarks will be up there. They had us send our remarks in the week before, so we wouldn't be out there talking all day or getting stuttered. And so that was it. Let's go. And I was like, oh man, you know, we want to take it in. So the whole day went by, and then they pick us up in the sweet Suburbans again. And just my wife and I were in one, and everybody had our own Suburban. We show up to the wards, and it's so funny, you guys. So the fans are just droving around trying to figure out who's coming in next, right? So like, who is that? Who is that? Who is that? And then we get out, and they're like, who is that? And it was so funny. So we're laughing because we know we're nobody, right? Right now we're no one. And so we go through, and then we go to the green room, you guys. And this is where you try, and you're the only fans in there. Everybody else is professionals. So Barry Trotz walks in, and you go, oh my God, it's Barry Trotz. And then, of course, Willie was there, but Brent Burns comes in. He's just larger than life, wearing a camouflage tuxedo, and then oh my gosh, and then oh my gosh, you guys, Mark Messier walks through the door, and it's like royalty walked through the door. Oh my God, there's Mark Messier. And these dudes are all cool. They're just talking to us like we're buddies, right? And Patrick Kane comes by, but I'm trying not to be super fan because they're not there for this, right? They don't need all the take my picture with you shit. But we did take a few pictures, and I had some regrets. I should have took a picture of Patrick Kane, but I was like, he's talking to somebody. I don't want to bother him. So then we go do the red carpet, which is funny because when we went to the red carpet, you know, I'm standing there, and they're taking the picture, and then they had to look up, who is this? I'm just laughing about it because I know we're nobody. So we're going by all the reporters, and they're stopping Willie because they know who he is, but we're all standing behind him. And by us walks Carey Price and Sidney Crosby, and all these. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And I'm trying to be cool, not be super fan still. So I popped out the camera and did the Facebook Live thing real quick. Guys, I'm trying to be cool, man, but oh my gosh, you see who that is? And I turn it off, and then we go by the fans again, and they're like, hey, who are they? So we're laughing again. Well, here's where I started getting nervous because I was really getting concerned about, you know, having to get up in front of people and speak. And the carrier or the keeper of the cup has the Stanley Cup. He walks by us. He stops and talks to Willie. We take a picture. They take a picture. He sets it down on bullshit. And I said, oh, let me get a picture of the cup, man. Damn. You guys think for 1 minute I thought about taking a picture with the cup? I could have put my arm around it, man. I was so pickle-headed, man.
Wow.
So anyways, we go down, and we get into the finally get our chance to sit down, and without telling you the rest of the long story, I know there was 10,000 people in there, so I was nervous about having to get up there and talk in front of 10,000 people and the world because I knew everybody in Flint was watching. And so the stories ran, and we're sitting there, and I had to go to the bathroom real bad, you guys, but I had to pee bad, but I said, no, don't go anywhere. And right before our award was the second to last award, and they were setting it up that way. And it was like a long night because of it, you know, couldn't relax.
Yeah.
And so I finally, you know, Willie O'Ree comes out, and he says, and the winner is Rico Phillips, just like that. And I'm, oh my gosh. So I shake the other guy's hand. Of course, I hug my wife, shake the other finalist's hand, and hug the other finalist. And then I immediately like, holy crap, this is really happening. And I remembered my top button on my coat, and I said, don't look to the right. There's got to be some famous folks. Just keep walking. And then I got to the staircase, you guys, and if you watch the video, and those of you that are listening that wonder what I'm talking about, watch the video. I get to the staircase, but that wasn't the one they showed us in the morning. That was the one all the pros were going up, right?
Oh,
so
right,
I took a left. Man, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, the stairs were longer or wider than I thought.
I saw it.
Yeah, the third
that,
step, I'm like, oh shit!
it was a
Oh
cringe
my
moment
God.
for me. I'm like, oh.
Oh, yeah, you
You
too.
recovered though. You had a recovery moment though. I love
Yeah,
that recovery
yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Thank God
Gotta
I'm a
back up.
referee. Thank God I'm a
Yeah.
referee, man. I got back up on my skates before I could fall, and I went to the top, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, can you believe I just almost bit it? And they're laughing. I turned around, like, oh shit, I got 30 seconds. I got to give this speech, and I gave my speech. I tried to ad lib and say, what's up to my Flintstones, and it came all messed up. But anyways, I knew not to look down, you guys, into the crowd. All the superstars are down there. And so I'm just looking up, and my last sentence of my speech, for some odd reason, my eye drifted down into the crowd, and there was PK Subban sitting there, and he looked up at me with a big grin and put a thumbs up as I was finishing my speech. I gave the Black Power sign, and I turned around and walked like somebody chased me off the stage. I didn't even have the trophy in my hand, man. They're like, Rico. I'm like, who's calling me? And then Catherine Tappan said, do you want the trophy? And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. So after it was all said and done, and I'll end with this, when it was all said and done, and I went and did a little interview, and I came back, the show was over by the time I came back, and I'm just kind of overwhelmed at the moment. The first person that came up to me was PK Subban. And he gave me the brother hug of a lifetime, and he said, man, I'm so happy for you, Rico, man. Very excited for you. Congratulations. He said, hey, can I have my picture with you? And man, I knew at that moment, man, my life was about to flip
You
upside.
made
That
it.
was the moment.
Yeah.
That was the moment, you guys. PK asked for a picture of me, and
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, sure, man. And I got my
That
picture
is
with him, of course.
incredible. Rico, we would talk to you all night if we could, but we are
Yeah, for
fresh
sure.
out of time. Thank you so much for
All
being
right,
on
Fred.
the show.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Yep,
And
you're welcome. Take care, guys.
you have a good night.
Take care.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
too.
God bless.